Hector S. Nkosi. We are still doing stock valuations, and we know that stock valuations, we get them from our paper 2. As you know that grade 12s this year, it's your first time having both paper 1 and paper 2 for accounting as a subject. In the previous years, you only had one paper, right? So I hope everyone is well. It's Friday today. I hope everyone is keeping well. Today we'll be looking at a past paper exam question, March or Feb 2016. It's a supplementary paper that was written in March or Feb 2016. That's what we'll be looking at today. It deals with weighted average and a specific identification method. All right. Okay, guys, this is the paper we'll be looking at today. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to always ask me. You can type your queries or your questions in the chat box. I'll always be here to help you, right? I can see Vanika, you have just joined us. Welcome. Can see other people are still joining us, guys. I'm just going to give you guys a minute or so. I'm sure some of you at home, they're still trying to log in or something. But yeah, I'm just going to give you a minute. I'll have to go back to the slides for those who are still coming in. Okay, guys, I was still waiting for the kids to join. All right. Okay, I can see others are still joining because it seems like there's a delay from them. Majority of you guys are joining at 1 minute past 2 or 1 minute or 2 minutes past 4. You know, so I can see majority of you are joining. So yeah, now we can start because I can see people are already coming in. Can see another one. Emihle is you have just joined. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm ready to start the lesson then. Okay. As I said to you guys, today we'll be looking at March 2016. So guys, this was a supplementary paper. Basically, it was a 2016 supplementary paper. I specifically want to look at your inventory valuation. I just want to show you that, guys, how the examiner can ask you in an exam when it comes to inventory valuations. I know I've explained inventory valuations from Monday, but Monday I was just doing a basic explanation. But today I'm starting a past paper. On Monday, I'll be doing a past paper still on inventory valuations. We'll be doing lots and lots of papers because remember, in your grade 12, you need to be familiar with your exams. on how they ask questions. We'll also do some other preliminary exams questions and some other IEB exam questions. This one I took it from NSC, right? So I have to read this with you. It says now, Bamji Stores sells two types of men's watches. Jonks imported from Germany, quartz locally manufactured. So if we are selling what? Two types of men's watches, right? And who's the name of the store is Bamji, right? So the one from Germany is Jogs, then Quartz is the locally manufactured. The financial year ended on 31st August 2015. That was our financial year end, right? Therefore, you are required to calculate the following in respect of the imported watches, of which is Jog's watches on this date, your closing stock, your cost of sales, right? Your average stock in holding period in days. I once spoke about this liquidity ratio, your stock holding period in days. And if the examiner has said to you in days, you just need to know that you have to multiply by 365, but we're still going to go there, right? Then 3.33, we must calculate the following values in respect of quartz watches on this closing stock and sales, right? And 3.33, explain why the business uses the different methods to value each type of watches. State one valid point. Okay, let's look at the information now, guys. Information A, it says the business uses the following methods to value the stock of the watches. So for Jogs, we use a specific identification method. For Quartz, we're using a weighted average method. No watches were stolen or lost during the year. Okay, then now we need to scroll down and read the whole entire information. Okay, now we are given, this is the information relating to Jog's watches. We've got the opening units, there were 12 units and each costed 6,500. The total was 78,000 and the units sold, there were only 11 from this 12. Then during the year, we had purchases of the Jog's watches. We bought in September 15, we bought in Jan 12, we bought in April 8. Here we only sold 10, we sold 10, we sold 5, right? Therefore, basically, the total number of watches that you had for the year, there were 47, but out of that 47, you only sold 36. The cost price of Jog's watches includes transport cost and custom duties. So they are telling us that this cost price includes the cost price includes the transport cost and custom duties. These watches are sold at a markup of 75% on cost. Right. Number B, it talks, number C or letter C specifically talk about what you call the information relating to quartz watches. So quartz watches are basically, we were told that these ones, they're using weighted average method. And we were told that the opening stock, it was 95, and this was the unit price per watch. And we bought in September 320, we bought in January 210, we bought in April 145. Quartz watches are sold at a fixed selling price of 520 each. So we know that quartz watches are being sold at 520 each. The cost to transport quartz watches from local supplier amounted to 11,950 for the financial year, and is it not included in the figure above, right? Then there were 92 quartz watches in stock on this, right? Which means your stock on hand. This is the stock on hand, your unsold units, right? Now, I want us to start answering the questions. Sorry. I want us to start to answer the questions. So with the questions, it says to you, calculate the following in respect of Jogs watches, the closing stock. Remember the Jogs, the Jogs or Jogs watches are using a specific identification method, right? So basically what you needed to do here was to say, okay, how much was left in the closing? How much was left in these purchases, how much was left in that purchases, and how much was left in that purchases. Then you add everything, and it will be the closing stock of Jogs watches using the specific identification method. Now let's go back to the information. The information, if you see here, you were told in information B that, okay, for Jogs watches, basically, okay, before I can do that, welcome everyone. I can see people are coming in numbers. Welcome everyone, guys. If you've got any questions, please feel free to send your queries in the chat box, or you can email me at nkosihector28@gmail.com. Perfect. So basically here we were told that Jogs watches are being what? Are being sold, are being valued at a specific identification method. Now the question said they want what? We must calculate the closing stock of the Jogs watches on 31st, right? Using the specific identification method. So now we know that under opening stock, we sold 11, which means one was unsold. So the value of the closing stock, we know that for opening, we only had one that was unsold. At how much? At 6,500. So no wonder here we had 1 times 6,500. It will be 6,500. Then going to the purchases on the 15th, we only sold 10, which means 5 they were unsold. Therefore, 5 times 6,800. So no wonder we're going to say plus 5 times 6,800, you're going to get 34,000. And then we move to January. January, we bought 12, but we only sold 10, which means 2, it was unsold. So we're going to say 2 times 7,300. No wonder here they did 2 times 7,300 and they got 14,600. Then the last purchases that we have made, we bought 8, but we only sold 5. So 3, they were unsold. So we're going to say 3 times 7,800. No wonder we got 3 times 7.8. It's 23,400. Then you add all these values and your total value of closing stock is 78,500. And this was 5 marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. Easy. Number 2, it says calculate the cost of sales of Jogs watches for the year ended 31st August 2015. Now here, guys, they want you to calculate what? They want you to calculate cost of sales. You should know the cost of sales formula by now, guys. Remember the cost of sales formula. It's always your opening stock plus your purchases, right? Minus your closing stock. So your opening stock, basically, it was 78,000. Your purchases, it was 252,000. And your closing stock is the one that you have just calculated from number A. So it's your opening stock, 78,000, plus your purchases, it's 252,000, minus your closing stock, you're going to get your cost of sales of 251,500. Or you can calculate your cost of sales in another way, right? We know that we can always calculate cost of sales in 2 ways. How? Another way is if you are given sales and a markup, you can calculate your cost of sales. right? So let's look at another method that they've used here. Here they've used the sales one and the markup one. So we were told here that the Jocks watches are sold at a markup of 75% on cost. What was the total sales? The total sales, it was 4,440. 400, yeah, 440,125, right? Therefore, at 75%. Therefore, you can calculate your cost of sales from sales and a markup. Therefore, now, no one the second solution, you can say 440,125 times 100 over 175, and therefore you have 251 as your cost of sales. Perfect. Okay. I hope I'm still making sense. I hope you guys are still following. I hope everything it's just making so much sense. Welcome, Kamuhelo. Welcome, Sonia. Welcome, uh, Jadida. Welcome, Emihle, Brooklyn. Welcome, guys, everyone. Okay, cool. Let's look at number C. Now, number C says calculate. Oh, sorry. I don't know why this thing is moving so fast. Yeah, here we go. Number C is saying to you, sorry. Number C is saying calculate the average stock holding period in days, right, of Jocks watches on 31st August 2015. We know that the average stock holding period, it's always your average stock, of which is your average trading inventory, of which how do we calculate the average trading inventory? You take this year's closing stock and last year's closing stock, you divide it by 2 or you multiply it by half. You always divide it by your cost of sales, this year's cost of sales. But because the examiner said in days, you must always multiply by 365, right? Because they wanted in days. Meaning now, this stock, what does it mean? It means that how many days, your stock holding period, how many days do you hold your stock before you can go buy new stock? 113 days. So it's approximately 114 days. So your stock stay in the shelves for, you hold it for like in your shelf for 114 days before you can go buy another stock, basically, right? Or before you can sell, before you can buy another stock. So where did we get 78,000? 78,000 is this value, guys, is last year's closing stock. Remember this year's opening stock, it was last year's closing stock. It was last year's closing stock, right? We had 78,000 plus this year's closing stock. This year's closing stock is 78,500 is the one that we have calculated in number A or in letter A. It's this one that we have calculated in letter A of 78,500. Now, grade 12s, you do have your average you do have your average inventory. When you say last year's closing stock plus this year's closing stock, divide by 2, or you can say multiply by half, you'll get 78,250. You must always divide it by your cost of sales. It was 251. We got our 251 from letter B. Multiply by 365 because the examiner told you specifically that they want the stock holding period in days. Sometimes it can be in months. If it was in months, the examiner was going to tell you that, okay, calculate the stock holding period in months. But if the question is silence, you always have an option whether you want to calculate it in days or in months. Let's say now, if the question was like to you, calculate the average stock holding period in months. Or, I mean, if they just say to you, calculate the average stock holding period of Jog's watches for this. If they did not specify whether in days or months, you always assume, or you can take whatever you want to take. You can use months or you can use days. You won't be penalized. You will be penalized, however, if they specifically told you guys that calculate in months or calculate in days. Please, guys, make sure that you know your exam techniques. Remember, at the end of the year, you'll be sitting for your final exam. You need to score all those marks, guys. Accounting, it's a principle-based subject. You need to know what you are doing, even if the values sometimes are wrong. As long as you apply what you know and you apply what you were told, that's how you're going to get lots and lots of marks. And we did our calculation and we got 113.6. So it's more of 114 days. 3.32. Now, it says to you, calculate the closing stock of quartz watches for the year ended 31st August 2015. Remember, quartz watches, guys, uses the weighted average method. So now, if you want to calculate your weighted average cost, if you want to calculate your what you call your weighted average cost method, you must always have your weighted average formula. Remember your weighted average formula, it's always your opening stock plus purchases, right? Plus any transport costs, right? So now, opening stock is 32,300. Let's go check our opening stock. So we need to go to quartz. Here's your quartz. Your quartz, it was given as 32,300. That was your opening stock. And yes, you've got 32,000. You've got you've got 32,300. This is your quartz, right? Plus your purchases. Your purchases, they were 259,900. These are your purchases for quartz watches, right? It's 259, right? And we were told that the transport, of which this is your carriage on purchases, right? Remember now, you must always add your transport because remember, if you were to go buy these watches, you're buying them, let's say you are staying in Gauteng and your supplier it's in Limpopo, or your supplier it's in Durban, or your supplier it's out of Gauteng. Let's put it like that, right? Do you agree with me that there needs to be a transport cost that needs to be attached or included in these goods that are coming to Gauteng? Does it make sense? So no wonder we always add our carriages. Sometimes they do speak about shipping costs. Remember, some of the goods, guys, they are come with a boat, right? So, I mean, with a ship. Basically, they ship them from overseas, and sometimes don't be amazed when they talk about shipping costs. Shipping cost is the same as transport cost. It's the same as carriage on purchases, meaning now you need to add or include the cost that brings those that inventory in its present location and condition. So no wonder we added 11,954 transport cost for these specific watches. Therefore, you must divide by the total number of units, including the opening units of 95 and the purchases of 675. So this was the opening units, your 675 was the purchases units. Therefore, your average price per watch using the weighted average method, it's 395. Right? Then after they say the closing stock, how many watch were unsold for quartz, under quartz, right? You know that 92 quartz watches, they were unsold. Therefore, now it's easy. You just say 92 times 395 rands, you'll get 36,340. And that was for 7 marks, boys and girls. This is very important. Now we under B. It says to you, calculate the sales of quartz watches on 31st August 2015. We know that, okay, we had the total of 770 watches for quartz. So 95 plus 675 is 770. Those were the number of total watches we had, including your opening watches under quartz. However, 92 they were unsold, which means you have sold 678 watches. Now, but they wanted the sales. They did not say calculate the units sold, but they said calculate the sales of quartz watches, meaning now you take your units sold and multiply it by your selling price. And your selling price was given here in bullet number 1 that says quartz watches are sold at a fixed selling price of 520 each. Therefore, now you're going to say 678, the number of the sold quartz watches, multiplied by its selling price of 520 rands. Therefore, the sales for quartz watches is 352,560. Now, theory question, 2 marks. It says explain why the business uses the different methods to value each type of watches. State one valid point. Now, both of these items are watches, but why the business is using the different methods to value same watches, it doesn't make sense. You know, who wants to try, guys? I want to open this to the floor. Who wants to try? I can unmute you, then you can explain to us. Who wants to try? Okay, it seems like most of you are quiet. I'm not sure it's because you guys are scared. Or should I pick up? Sonia, do you want to try? Okay. No one wants to try. Okay, no problem, guys. I'll have to explain this to you. Brooklyn? Hello, Brooklyn? Okay, it's not, I don't know what's happening with your audio, but okay, I was going to unmute you. So basically, jogs is sold at a higher value. Small quantities are purchased, right? So meaning that since jogs is sold at a higher value, meaning now small quantities are purchased. Each item can be monitored individually, right? The value is continuously changing. Whereas when we look at quartz, quartz is sold at a lower value. Large quantities are purchased. No wonder the value of each watch is almost constant. No wonder here for quartz we're using weighted average method. Remember when I was trying to explain to you the difference between what? Between the specific identification method and the weighted average method. Is that sometimes, guys, you need to know that why are we using the specific identification methods? Why are we also using the weighted average methods? Weighted average method, we know that it's when we use, it's that method that uses for large, when we stock in large quantities, but for low values, right? We're speaking about apples, we're speaking about bananas, you know, we can stock so many apples, but we know that the value of apples is very small. But now, if I'm selling cars, now, if I'm selling cars, we know that the price of a car or the cost of the car or the sale of the car, it will be at a higher value. But I don't go stock cars now and then. I'm sure per year I stock maybe 6 cars of these models, 5 cars of these models, and maybe 2 cars of these models, because I know that they've got higher value but small quantities, right? Okay, boys and girls, that's it from today. I wish you a fantastic weekend. I'll see you again next week. We'll be looking at another past paper next week. We'll be looking at your FIFO method. Maybe we can look at a November paper. Maybe on Tuesday, we're going to look at the prelim paper, but looking at specifically inventory systems, right? Okay. Okay. Everyone is saying thank you. Okay, guys, have a lovely evening. Goodbye.